We got everything.
I'll update that from Mike tomorrow, I'll get an update of that.
But it's a
The loan goes to principal and interest
Got
back
right
to
on the
July
chart
first,
for a trend.
which means then our first, principal and interest payment will be due August first. Well, right now, we're just paying interest only. And so, it's gonna go roughly, Mike and I calculated, roughly 7,800. I want to say it's around 45, somewhere right there. But I'll update that, confirm that, and just say sure.
all right. Y'all wouldn't mind praying with me this evening? Lord, we're grateful for the sunshine. We're grateful here to be serving at our wonderful city. We ask that you watch over us, watch over our families, and bless and guide us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, we have a few things on the work agenda. We have a couple of things that is handed out that could be added to our work session. If it is your pleasure, I would like the consideration to add to this work session the resignation of Lawrence Bridges off the DEA. We could add that down to the new number 11.
We don't have to approve the work session.
No, we don't. I'd like to add the turnip seed engineering, the bid schedule for the Hammer Creek relocation. I'd like to add that. Let's add that under number 6 as the new number 7. Under number 10, we have A through E. Let's add another letter there under lighting for HVAC. And then, I guess it doesn't need to be much for discussion, but the account signers needs to be added, so we make that the new number 12.
Specific accounts.
Park.
Mark. Is that okay with everyone to add those topics for discussion? All right, we'll look at the first one is to ratify the termination of the Habersham Medical Center contract. Mark, you want to pick up on that?
Sure, this was used as a cost savings idea between myself and Kevin Inlids. Is it Kevin? Kevin, yes, Madison. And because they were paying roughly $9,300 for the security for the police of Demorest, and since they had to go through July 1st, I suggested maybe they stop that. So our last day was May the 6th. So that's what this is in regards to. The chief and his officers still respond as needed, but the hospital has their own official security, and so they're utilizing that. So this is just really, at this point, just a house cleaning issue.
And we were able to find a new place for that employee.
Yes.
No job loss.
No job loss. And he works in Brian's group, but he still is a certified police officer.
Okay.
With Chief Clinton Jones.
Very good. As of right now, are they paid up on past due? Or?
They're due. I talked to Kevin last week, or Monday, yesterday. They approved the check last Friday for April and for the 1 week in May.
So that'll be paid up.
That'll be paid up in the current order.
Sure. Very good. Any conversations over this termination of the agreement? There's nothing we really do about that. consideration of the North Georgia Medical Center items is the parking study and contracts. Mark, you want to pick on this?
Right, I have Emily Bagwell, who is one of the attorneys, from the hospital, who's been working with Thomas and I. And this parking agreement came up as Emily and her folks were doing their due diligence. This was an agreement between the authority and the city that had never been done. And so the hospital, crossing their T's, dotting their I's, said, well, we're gonna go ahead and do this parking agreement. And that's what this is. And really, at this point, again, it's not a formality. It's nothing more than an information piece. And Emily, would you like to tag on any of that?
No, I'm glad to answer your questions about the
Okay.
specifics of it, if there are.
Thomas, have you reviewed this?
I have, the one thing I would comment on is there's one with regard to the assignment of the lease for the water tower, and there's, some, if you all had the opportunity, I know this was provided to you all late, there were some, additions, and there's a lot of red lines and provisions regarding indemnification and insurance, and, Ms. Bagwell and I have had a couple of conversations about that, and that language still has to be worked out with risk management or, the new authority, the state of Gainesville, Hall County,
Okay.
Hall County Hospital. So, there really, two things I would suggest. One, you all can approve, authorize the mayor to execute this assignment subject to the final approval of language by, Mark and I, or, the Bagwell thinks they may have their final language, proposed by the end of the week or Monday. You all have a special call next Tuesday. So the other option is, this wouldn't require a public hearing, but we could amend the agenda for that special call meeting, as long as we do it with 24 hours notice. You all can, approve this then, rather than approving it conditionally tonight. It's up to you.
Have to re-advertise.
No, the part that had to be advertised, the public hearing part is not, that's not impacted by this. We're just amending the agenda.
What is your suggestion, Thomas?
Because of the, I think y'all need to wait until next week to approve this. Because everything, the language was suggested by Ms. Bagley's firm. The one thing that I added, today was that the indemnification requirements to be met by the insurance provision, and then there's the aggregate the required aggregate coverage in that provision is higher than what our CGI is, commercial general insurance is. So, I put in language in it that says the aggregate can be met by the umbrella policy. And Ms. Bagwell just has, she says that we're still has to approve that, so, that language may change, but I think we're close.
Okay. Does it cause any problems with the hospital for us to wait?
No, our goal is to get everything approved and signed up by July 1, which is when technically the Hall County Authority will complete the transaction with the Habersham Authority.
Very good.
And so there's a lot to do between now and then.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, this is just on general liability, nothing to do with coverage of the tank or something like that. It's already in our policy coverage.
Okay. Very good. Council, y'all have anything you'd like to add or discuss? It's a little complex.
All right, since we're going to vote in a special call meeting, we just table it.
Yes. Would be a suggestion if that's the way council would like to vote. Next, we'll move over to the LD bids. Mark, you want to talk about that?
Yes, sir. We advertised this as per the law, and, we had two bids. One was from Precision Paving and Sealing.
Let me stop and ask, what was the amount of that grant that we got in on that this year?
Round number right here is, I'm gonna say $37,000.
Okay.
And then the difference, we would have to make up.
Okay.
And, so we had the two bids, the low bidder was Precision Paving and Sealing at $68,000, $715. And the other bid was from Garrett Paving Company at $89,998. So call it $90,000 and $69,000 difference in that. And this is all the streets that we had advertised in asphalt. And, we should be able to pull this other part out of our SPOS dollars of roads, streets, and bridges to make up the difference for this.
So a lot of the, streets on this list, or at least a couple of the streets on this list are on here because of the, tree roots.
Or, yes,
So there, what's gonna happen with that?
you know, Brian and I, unfortunately, I didn't ask Brian that question. But I can, obviously, if they build the streets where the roots are in the street, obviously, they've done this before. I know they had said on double springs. I don't know how long it lasted,
Not me.
so, isn't that,
That's my concern, with the trees still there.
yeah.
We pay to do this, and then,
Like on Garrett Paving bid, it says there's no guarantee tree roots will not return.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're gonna be, got trees in our city, this is something we're gonna have to endure. Otherwise, we'll cut them all.
just sometime,
Just put a speed bump over that.
Yeah.
Well, the people going down Double Springs, they get in the other lane
Yeah.
to avoid those.
And even when we fixed it the last time, they still got over in the other lane, out of habit.
well, it's the same way on Ohio Street too. I mean, the right-hand side of Ohio Street's unusable. And there was a fire there, the only residence there recently. And you had all the fire trucks from around the county trying to go down that street. I'm sure they had a bumpy ride.
And the bid said that the work must be completed by August 31st, and, Precision can do that.
Has Precision paid for the city before?
Question I don't,
What is it?
Has Precision paved for the city before?
Any y'all?
Not that I
I know
recall.
Garrett's paved, I remember them.
I don't recall us using Precision.
Remember one time we got in a mess from hiring somebody that we didn't know much about.
Brian did say that they had good work. They did do good work.
Okay,
That it was apples to apples, basically.
yeah,
So Brian felt good about that.
Yeah, Brian did feel good about both of them.
okay.
The trees in the right of way are on private property.
Should be close.
The ones on Double Springs, they're like 6 pine trees, but get big.
You'd have to have an easement, I mean, you can get a tree removal easement on the property owner. It's questionable, you need to get permission of the property owner.
Cemetery.
No.
All of the-
So you can get that pretty easy on Devil Springs. Probably Ohio too.
I have a question on Arlington. Maybe not, we did the same with
But which street?
Arlington Street.
I don't know the answer to that. Well, Arlington, that price on that one, did that include widen it? I think I remember that conversation when that didn't go out.
Doesn't say anything about it.
It's just high. Precision. Precision's
Mhm.
right. Of course.
Third page back is it says here, is the bid sheet, work consists of purchasing all material, equipment, and labor for the construction of roadway improvements of Arlington repaved surface, approximately 950 square, feet, and three stripes. It doesn't say anything about widening.
Not one.
some other conversations about these two bids. I don't know, maybe we could even modify it and take off a couple of streets and reduce the price, but. We do have $37,000 in grant funds to spend this year. And this is nearly double our grant funds.
But it is needed, I mean, all of it's needed, we need stripes on those roads, we need, you know, those humps taken out,
Mhm.
you know.
That allocated amount to SPOS, how much more do we have in that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I've got it back here in the financials. It's lost 6. There's $100,900.
That's allocated for what?
Road, streets, and bridges.
That's separate out for just that?
And then it's lost 7. There is $180,000.
What? And where do you see that, Mark?
This is, go to the very back, all the way to where you see the income statement. That looks like this, it has the Demorest, go to the first page past this part right here. That shows the income statement, so we're at the back end of that. This is the very last thing.
What you said at the bottom, what was 9? What number 9?
It says page 7 for management use only, number 7. Down at the bottom.
7 and 9? Gotta go back.
No, go to,
Oh, I got it.
yeah,
I got
so
it.
there's a sheet right before where it starts the income account.
Okay.
You know,
We do have some funds in there to spend out of that, we have to keep in mind that a lot of that is for some sidewalks too.
Yes, yes. And then you can see what we'll have for water and sewer, also for when we talk about this upcoming Hazel Creek bid too.
Yes.
Because we got 201,000, it's lost 6 for water and sewer. And then there's lost 7, there's 643,000. And Hazel Creek is 483,000, just for the sewer. And then we've got the 365 more planned, and then the roundabout. The best part for the roundabout and the water line changes is that Brian will be doing on both of those. He's bought all the supplies already, he already has all the piping sitting on site. So that has been paid for already, because otherwise, other than on the roundabout, he just has to bore under 115 and 105. So that's the only thing other than our labor cost and machinery that they'll be using.
Okay.
So. And that roundabout could be coming up this fall. There's some slight schedules talking out there.
Okay.
So,
Our council, you know, what considers this one of these bids, or you want to call out for a vote during our regular meeting? Any thoughts or discussions?
I like the fact that Brian likes both businesses, that says a lot to me personally.
If you said apples, apples, it's $2,000. One big apple versus one crab apple.
Quick question, what about warranty, guarantees of work done?
well, like we've said that most of these are lots to do because of the roots. There is no guarantee, because obviously the roots are going to come back.
Yeah. All right. Any other further discussion on the bids? Let's move on to tab 4, the turnip seed invoice.
This is their cost for engineering services, from August 29th, 2022 to April 21st, 2023 on the Hazel Creek Bridge widening utility relocation. So this is for the water and the sewer of $11,409.
Okay.
And this would be paid out of those SPOS dollars we just talked about. And it's broken down all the way through.
It's work already done.
Correct.
Yes.
Any discussion on that invoice? Nothing to do about it.
It's work already done.
And now, y'all pull out the bids for the Hazel Creek. It's in that secondary packet.
Should be like five or six pages. What we have here is the turnip seed, where they reviewed the three bids and compared them in the following sheets. Higgins Construction was the low bidder at $483,715. Out of Cornelia, Attaway Contracting out of Gainesville is $639,481. The Wool Corp Incorporated out of Tacoma was $698,925. Now, the interesting thing, this is like 1,290 linear feet
It's in that one.
of sewer only. It's deep in the roads, and this is work that Ryan and his crew weren't able to do. That's why this had to be bid out. And Brian's crew will do all of the water, except they'll have to bring in someone to dig through, over in Hazel Creek to get to the other side. So all those elevated piping and things that you see there now won't be there like that once this project is finished. So there's a resolution prepared if we were prepared to pay Higgins. The next page, that looks like this, is the comparison, on the first is Higgins and Attaway, and then the third page is where Wilcor is put together, so they compared all three of them.
I think I'm missing that one.
That's with you.
It's with Higgins.
Oh.
You see at the top?
Yep.
Yep, and then the third page back there is Attaway's, and it goes all the way through and lists the items and the price, and you can start seeing where the different pricing came in to be roughly $205,000 from the lowest to the highest bid. And in Greg's statement there, that Higgins, since the low bidder appears to have adequate experience, technical ability, and financial capabilities to complete this project, we recommend contract award be made to Higgins Construction from our engineers and Greg Ashworth of Turner Two.
We've talked about this several times. This was a project promised by SPOS to run a sewer line to the other side of 365 as a economic push. And hopefully it brings in some industry to connect onto that line so we can focus on growth and have growth where smart growth, correct. Is there any discussion on that? Or any thoughts?
I really like where it's broken down.
It's
It
amazing.
makes it really clear.
And I'd also like to add that, I appreciate our city clerk and our city manager providing this information as soon as they can. I realize this is an add-on tonight, but previously for the last 2 weeks, we've been getting information that we make decisions on that gives the council the opportunity to think of alternative decisions. So appreciate that, and all the information that comes in that has the council need, we greatly appreciate it going straight out to the council so we can have those.
Thank you for that, and, because we didn't get this report right here until Monday, from them since, the deadline date was June 1st, so they really turned it around pretty fast on Turnip City with the baby and the 6th, so.
He just opened the bids on the 1st, so
Right.
it was really quick.
It's amazing, like looking through this breakout of things, it breaks out to them buying hay bales, one's for $100, one's for $150, and one's for $500. So, it's amazing that they broke out compared every line item.
I think of the person that had to put this together and to pull those numbers out of those bids and to put them into this format like this with Turnip City.
It's pretty amazing.
Hay bale here, homes over there.
Very good. Any other further discussion? Bear with me, I've lost my agenda. All right, let's move on to discussion of the Historic Preservation Commission. I believe this is something we've talked about numerous times. Mark, Thomas, y'all want to pick up on this?
Councilmember Hendricks raised the issue back in March, with regard to the Historic Preservation Commission, so I think what you all just need to do is identify folks that will serve.
And we have up the updated applications on our website
Okay.
for folks to download, fill out, and send them in to us.
Does anyone have anybody you would like to suggest for that committee this evening? We just need to keep in mind to table that, as number 9 here in the regular session.
Are there any qualifications that you have to have?
Yeah, there are.
Okay.
At least 3 members should be appointed.
And that's on number 5.
Yeah. Among professionals in the disciplines of architecture, history, architectural history, planning, archaeology, or related professions.
Particular hour, they've got to be members, they've got to be residents.
Residents
And
and architects.
one of these.
Say that again.
At least 3 of the members have to be from one of these professions. Architect, history, architectural history, planning, archaeology, or related profession.
And you're wanting Demorest residents.
3.
And when exactly was it you wanted to put this committee into effect?
Pronto.
You gotta ask
Oh,
them.
that's special, y'all. That's
No,
special.
I just gotta go to the rich side of town and find out who's under those.
Well,
Would you take people
it's
who
kinda
know a lot about the
vague.
history that would volunteer?
Well, it's kind of vague under experience or education in history, right?
I would volunteer on behalf of my mother, who probably knows more history about this town than any of y'all combined. And I could take information from her and bring it to you. I would volunteer to do that. But I don't know if I qualify. I have a master's degree, but it's in theology and bibliology, and I don't know that that would work for you, although the Bible is pretty ancient. So, you know,
Very good. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the cemetery project.
All right.
How did this conversation come up?
How this conversation came up is, the city resold some unmarked graves on our 100-year-old grave map.
That's right.
That's very outdated.
So I'm sure everybody has seen.
And luckily, we worked it out though, because everybody's happy. And there's no issues, everybody's been refunded. They kept 2, we refunded 2 lots back to them. And the original owners of those are clearly marked on the property. But this ancient history map is in bad shape. And it's got a lot of information, but with doing this, I contacted the Georgia Mountain Regional Development in Gainesville, and Miss Faith Bryant here, guess what she did in 2009 and 2015? Tell them.
So what we did back in 2008, 2009 is for every headstone that was within your Demorest City maintained cemetery, which I think is what, 14 plus or minus acres, is we took a GPS location of every headstone. We took a digital photograph of each one. Now, this was back before cameras and all that, so your phone was basically your computer, that was way back before that. So we took a digital photograph, we've recorded all of that information in a spreadsheet and digitally in our mapping software, so we still have all of that information. But it hasn't been updated since 2009. What the ladies at the City Hall have been doing is taking the map that I finished back in 2009, and I was the one that worked on this project way back when. Yes, I started at Georgia Mountains when I was 12. But what they've been doing is they've been physically taking pen to paper and marking on that map the new burials and the new lots that have been sold and so on and so forth. But the proposal that I have given to Mark, did everybody get a copy of the proposal?
Yes, Council all has this.
So there's a couple of things on here that's a little bit different than what we did way back in 2009. So the first part, of course, is similar, but we're basically going to be going gravesite by gravesite, and anybody that was buried since 2009 will have that same. We're going to collect a GPS location for it. We're going to be recording information off of the headstone. We're going to be taking that same digital photograph and tying it back down to digital mapping data. The 2 things that are different is we can now put an online mapping application that you can pull up on your phone, you can pull up on your tablet, you can pull up at home, but you would be able to zoom in, zoom out of the cemetery and be able to see the aerial photograph, meaning the imagery that's taken from airplane, the same imagery that you see in your tax assessor's database when you go online to Habersham County tax assessors. And we overlay that imagery on top of that, and we can put that online for public access and for city access. The next component is to be loading it onto their desktops. There is a free software called ArcReader that we can load onto their desktops. They can have that same imagery, they can have all those headstones, they can have all those photographs and be able to search. So if somebody wants to come in and say, well, where is my great-grandfather buried? His name was John Ranger. You could look up John Ranger. It would automatically go to that gravesite and show you an exact location of where he is located in the cemetery.
That's cool.
Yes, very much so.
Okay? And, the total proposal was for $5,450 for us to update completely. And we would like to start on the project, if y'all approve the project, probably in September, because we'd like to finish up one that we're working on with Sky Valley right now.
Well, she was I found her, just unbelievable. Again, she's been 32 years.
32 years of Georgia
At Georgia
Mountain.
Mountain, a wealth of information this young lady has, and to find her was such a glorious moment in such disrepair, I thought. So, this is an excellent situation to clear up a long-term running situation. And I will say too, once I've been dealing with the cemetery, I did get with Brian and they did some additional paving down in there and trimmed all the tree trims around all the perimeter of the property also, because we have a landscape company that cuts that on a regular basis. And this funds would come from the cemetery funds. It's roughly $65,000 in that account. And really that's also, I want to say, it's about $1,000 for the landscaping. We've been paying it out of general fund. That should be coming out of the cemetery fund to pay for itself. So just something that we found in looking and dealing with this. So just bring that up as two different, a separate item.
So plots now, when they're sold, are they surveyed out, or y'all put strings?
Handwritten.
Okay. And all the available lots, those will be like categorized
Yeah.
too, or?
Yeah, I sent Mark and the ladies at the office, a link to a website that we could, not a website, but a mapping application that we created for Rose Hill Cemetery in Royston. And they show all of the available plots. So if there is an available plot within the cemetery, and this is something that we can definitely do for y'all as well. If there's an available plot out there, it will show up a different color that it's available for sale.
Okay.
That's the best part too, right there.
And when they sell one, they can go in that software and input in all the details after
They
somebody's
won't have
buried?
the editing capability, but if you, and that's the other thing that I would recommend that you do, is that you maintain it at least annually.
Okay, and I see on there we have a maintenance of $85 an hour.
Right.
To come in to update that.
Yeah, because it took us for Royston, we did the same thing for them, but then they didn't maintain it, and it took us a good solid year and a half to get theirs straightened back out, because they sold lots and then they had to move those people to different lots because they sold them twice, and yeah, it was a mess.
The annual maintenance
Yeah.
is worth every bit of that, so we do not have to experience what we did.
Yeah, so we're looking from 2009 to 2023.
I mean, we have to get someone to come out and probe the ground before we can even sell a plot at this rate,
Yeah.
because we don't know what's there.
So is annual maintenance enough? I mean, I don't know how many we sell, but, I mean, for people to be able to look it up and say, hey, I need 3 lots, and there's 3 right there together.
Yeah, well, if they let me know, like, even every month, like, we sold 10 lots this
That's when
time.
you start.
Yeah, and then I can go ahead and put that in the computer and update the online application. That's the beauty of the online application.
And
Because
then you
it's
just bill us,
updated. Yeah,
you just bill us for the number of $85 an hour for that.
yeah.
And that's what I would expect us to be doing.
What good is it? It's not.
Sounds great. I mean,
And that's what happened in 2009.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
easier, I'm assuming, just to put this large map out on the floor and
Mhm.
start drawing
Box.
boxes.
Yeah.
If y'all wanna see it, I'll be glad to show you.
Aluminum, pine, metal, what are we talking about?
I'm curious, have y'all come across any unmarked graves that were occupied?
I'm not, since I've been here.
Okay, well, I
Yes.
just wondered if that, cause that potentially,
That
especially,
happens.
yeah.
It
I would
It
think
could
so.
happen very easily.
Yeah,
Yeah. especially if you don't know.
That would almost require ground penetrating radar to
Yes.
determine.
Because what happens is they take the long rod, they push it. If they come where it gets any resistance, they don't want to push too hard because it could poke through, or if it's just a wooden coffin there. And then if you start pulling out black dirt,
Then a hand comes up and smacks you right in the head.
Donnie, you remember something about them scanning that cemetery when we were on council?
You with it?
what was your question?
When Donnie and I was on city council,
Long time.
I feel like we hired somebody to come out and map a lot of it. And they use that ground penetrating radar, but I think it was after of that. We weren't here that night.
But they talked about the process, they had some type of, look like a lawnmower type.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
it's just
that's
like
ground
lawnmower.
penetrating radar.
Mhm.
So did that happen?
Yeah. I remember it happening. Like, you remember that too?
Let's just say I'm gonna agree with you.
We have not found any results or anything like that.
Yeah, because, the data, when we completed the project, of course, we brought the paper map, which is used and abused, let me tell you. When they laid it out on the floor, they said, be very careful, you touch it, it's gonna rip. But, so they had the paper map, but they lost the digital spreadsheet and all of the photographs and everything that we did back in 2009, so it's disappeared. So probably if y'all paid to have that ground penetrating radar,
We do a lot of that around here, and don't work.
if it's out there,
It's missing too.
Voice of ignorance, ask a question.
yes, sir.
Would it be more accurate and cost effective instead of using an airplane to use one of those little hover things that has a camera?
Drones.
Right, thank you, Dr.
No, they're not as accurate.
They're not as accurate,
No.
okay. That's what I need to know.
Because, can I get into that deep?
I'll accept none.
The aerial photography is usually tied back down to the earth using LiDAR or light detection and ranging, which is, your very accurate, lay of the land or your elevation contours.
Okay.
So when you're tying it back down with, LiDAR and that information, that imagery is way more accurate than the little,
The drone wouldn't catch the hills and the curves and the dips
No.
down, okay? All right.
That's what we use for speed detection too, and it's, within inches or feet of what we're,
The LiDAR.
on vehicles, so there's, like she said, it's very accurate.
very accurate.
I thought that was a delicacy.
Council, any other further discussion on this? Thank you.
I just wanted y'all to hear that straight from what she's done.
Mark, discussion of the city complex.
Yes.
Storm drains, repairs, purchase new swings.
All right, go to tab 7, 6.
7.
Oh, 7, yes. Yes. And so, as you scroll through these pictures, you can just see the damage. And what we're talking about, folks, is here's where the gym is, here's where the elementary school, there's the red sidewall, cinder block wall that's prior to the gym. So it's that whole red wall that runs in between the two buildings. And we have water intrusions into, this is the gym, and on this side right here is where water comes underneath the wall. And you can see where it's been going on for many, many years, as you can see many layers of old caulking that they tried to do. And our issue is there's no control of any of this water, and our old sidewalk in here rolls toward the building. So a lot of issues of tearing all this wall out, because when we had the yard sale, Andrew was the first one to find out that this was leaking, when he had to squeegee parts of the gym out of the yard sale. And then once we've had some hard rains like that, it will come in. Now, we will be working on gutters too, and those kind of things. But right now, to fix this, and that parking area back there where this water all is coming to, for Brian and his guys, it is a cost of just material of $11,458.60, where Brian and his guys can do this. So that whole section back there would change. Otherwise, we're never stopping that water from getting into that gym. And everything that we've done in that gym will have water in it. And so this is one of those.
Protect your investment.
Yeah, because that cinder block wall, as you see in the pictures there, part of it's just rotted, washed out, the cinder blocks, and it's in bad shape.
So let's combine this conversation and just run that straight on through, well, you have basketball court, swing, carpet, fire, cameras, let's just group them all together because all of that's kind of part of this.
Yeah. All right. And then, the basketball asphalt that's out there by the ball field, it's in pretty good shape, but obviously we got some cracks and things of that sort. We replaced some of the goals, so those are up and running. I wanted to get it seal coated and have the company draw the lines back on the floor, on the court. It's $3,000. And this is the same company that did the parking lot at City Hall. And so it would just give it a whole new look. And so you have 2 half courts, and it's a large area. And Jerry, you're checking into having some lower basketball goals on the side. The dunking of older people on the little bitty goals is what I've determined is why you don't see a lot of that.
Well, I think they're going to talk about cameras and.
Now, we probably could lower them in the gym since we have cameras in there.
That'd work.
So that was my alternative to that.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? Are you wanting the lower ones for the littler people? Well, then do plastic.
Yeah.
No adult's gonna go dunk a plastic, surely. Of course, you know, then there was a beer can 3 feet from the garbage can today too, so I know that. Adults, it's questionable.
That's right.
And then just to add additional swings since our frames are there, it's $893. I know it's some simple math. I just wanted y'all all to see this and what we're looking at. We could add a whole other playground section.
This is a different company, another company that did this.
Yes, this is just a company that.
No, the seal coat.
Yeah, so we've got there's 10 places, 10 swings. We're gonna have 6 of the bigger swings and 4 for the toddler swings there. And just some easy pass to add a real nice package there.
Anything to prevent, I mean, those are old, and of course, old equipment is not built to today's standards. Is there any measure to prevent somebody from going as high as those?
I would say not as they do, as we all did that as kids with those swings. We do have our signs up about liability, and so there is some precautions that people just need to be able to take.
As high as you want, Sean. Law.
I've already done it, Jerry. That's why I have fourth swing, I believe I can fly, and off you go. Now, we could put a swimming pool in front.
There you
Go,
go.
here now.
I wish somebody could have swum somewhere.
So all of those together, from the storm drains, the repair of the basketball court, purchase of swings, is $15,352.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on into the
And
carpet.
just so that we say, Megan and I missed the storm drain, we missed those 3 being added to our council meeting agenda.
Oh,
So they're on this one, they did not make it over to our council.
thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I just was waiting for this time. All right,
And one last addition, when you seal coat that court, you're preserving it even longer.
absolutely.
It'll be good much longer than it would have been if left alone.
John, what you say?
I was gonna say that this part of the discussion has to do with the signs that we're posting. In other words, play at your own risk. It's not very good to play at your own risk. You've got water standing in the gym and.
Absolutely.
So
Good
we
point.
want, you know.
Yeah.
The good facilities.
Provide safe.
So absolutely for that, that all plays all together in that. All right, and going into our carpet selection, this has not been an easy.
So where is this?
This is number,
Tab 8? Or where are you putting it? You putting that in the bathrooms?
the carpet.
Yeah, where are you putting it?
Carpet.
This is for the auditorium, section is what we're about to roll into the next conversation here. This is about replacing, the flooring that's in there. We met with several different flooring companies, and because of the large room, the large height, they did not recommend going with hardwood floors or tile or the laminate, the vinyl planks because of echo, sounds like that. So they recommended what's called a carpet tile. So this is a carpet tile. So it goes down one at a time, just like that.
So if one gets damaged, so if one area gets
You can
damaged,
pull
it's
it up.
easily replaced rather than
I think we
replacing
have
all
that
the
same stuff in our, media center at the high school.
This is another section from Anderson Carpet, and you can have them with these designs. You go in the doctor's office and different things. These designs scare me though in such a large room of how that could look. And we get one shot to put it in, and somebody don't like it, I got a bigger problem. Where this is the one I'm actually recommending. And
What are you recommending?
black one right here, which is Northeast Georgia carpet. It's the second most expensive compost. And this one is what all they have to do to pull up the existing carpet and to prep the floor is $15,775.
So the second bid is from the same company, but it's,
It's of a cheaper source than that one. It looks the same.
It's not as thick?
It's not a stick, and that's the difference of what he's recommending. Anderson's was the most expensive with these.
What is the, right now in that room, there's carpet in there?
It is 3 12-foot long wide sections that every one of the seams were coming up from.
Okay.
And that's the difference of having those 12-foot sections. There's no way to preserve those seams once it starts going. Where this was projected to last 20 years. The same company replaced this same type carpet at Truett McConnell in their dorms. It lasted for 10 years, and that's everyday use 365. So you can think about how much we're going to use this carpet, why it wouldn't last for that type of.
You got special cleaning that has to be done with those?
No, it's just like, he'll sell us, but, whatever he'll recommend a cleaning solution in case there's a problem. So you go through these, everybody pretty much, here is, you'll see, Victor's with Anderson Carpet was at 16.1, and this was at 15.7.
So the one you're proposing is $15,775. All right.
But there's cheaper carpet.
And the thickness helps with the sound.
The sound, and just the comfort of that. So, when I got down to $10,730, but again, when, as much as Megan and I looked at with this, and Megan, please chime in, you can start to see the thread counts, and you start seeing the difference when you read about the different ones. I've got probably 15 books of carpet samples. They all send them out to you in a board like this, or in a green binder like this.
What about replacing of that design in the future?
Well, they're actually running this carpet, June the 9th, up in Dalton. So this carpet this is when they run them every so often, so it is in their regular thread count. So it's not like it's about to run out or anything is what they're telling me. Because our carpet will be made June 9th, June 10th, if we go with that one.
What I'm saying is that this is something that's mass produce on an ongoing basis that particular design
Correct.
that we'd be able to find
Yes.
if we needed to replace.
20
it.
years from now, I don't know, 15 years from now, you know what I'm saying? But we're gonna buy extra tile
Okay.
also, and we'll have those supplied and stored.
Okay, all right, that answers my question.
So,
He also talked about moisture
yes,
in the carpet, and that this was a good option for, depending on, once they tear it up, how much moisture is down there. The thickness is supposed to help with the moisture.
all right. Getting back into ACG and fire additions, because again, we didn't go all the way down. And if you look at each summary section here, it tells you the summary of what's going to be coming in here on the page 2 of 5. And so it's the same exact items as we've had. John, on the front page, it says, let's say, meeting facility fire additions. Yeah, that's where you are. So the material list on here is very similar to what we have. And so between material and labor, a total of 82,1955.
Is this for the other hallway?
This is for the auditorium, and then in that breakout room where the church had finished out the flooring, right in there, two back there. And then the next one is the cameras for these auditorium and in that meeting area there in the front. So again, the summary up here tells you how many cameras we're doing, and this is not to do with streaming, this is just strictly the security cameras that we've got placed throughout the building.
These are just additions to the security cameras?
Yes, in the auditorium and in that outside waiting area where the floors are fitted. And that total price comes to $5,214. The third one from ACG is the audio and visual section. I've got 3 bids. The cheapest bid is ACG at for material labor is $25,581. I have the highest bid is from DB Integrations, which is out of Gainesville, which comes highly recommended where they're doing churches, hotels, all around.
Everyone's in Cornelia?
Yes, they did theirs, and ACG did Lula's. And DB is the highest at a total of $81,087. Jeremy Cooper, who was sitting in the back, and Jeremy, you can come up. He works with his company and CCS, another partner company that they have. And this one is in the middle at $51,000. Now, I'm gonna let him, everybody has different, basically it's the same thing, but they're different elevations of the top, the best of the best of what DB is, a little bit lower with ACG. And then I'm thinking with my discussions, Jeremy's discussions, and the other guys, this is what I'm seeing. But again, we don't want to go this route, but again, when Megan has to use to stream our meetings and things of this sort, we could have 1 to 2 cameras that do this on a regular basis, where there's some camera control, where that person would actually sit all the way in the back, where that staging area is. To control this, there would be 2 88-inch TVs on both sides of the room. So folks could see where if you want to present something, you don't even have to have it hooked up. It's going to be like a Bluetooth, and he'll talk about that, where you can connect and everything could be on the screen. So folks could really see our whole agenda and the meat of the items on these screens, and if somebody wanted to present something, they could do that. So, with that, and Jeremy, tell everybody where you live at too.
Yeah, I live in Demorest, so my company is actually based out of Demorest. So I own a small IT company. It's Georgia Custom Computers. I officially started about a year and a half ago, so I'm fully licensed in Demorest as an IT company. But yeah, it's going great so far, so I really enjoy it. Yeah. So basically what I did, Mark called me in to come in and give an AV quote. I came in, I do a lot of smaller AV stuff I do a lot of stuff at Piedmont University, I do a lot of stuff for people in Raven, that area. This project had a lot more complexity, so a company that I've worked with previously in the past, CCS, they do great work. They do all of the work for Piedmont right now. So they're one of the companies in this area that I actually prefer the most. So that's who I chose to partner with for this project. But yeah, we came out for a total of $51,600. My portion of that is going to be the streaming portion. So I'll handle anything with the computers. The cool thing about our solution is it's 100% remote support. So if you guys need something, you call me. I'm able to actually reboot the system, remote in, and take care of it. And that's something that brings a lot of value to this bid compared to the others. So, absolutely. This bid includes one camera, but we went ahead and decided we're going to go ahead and cable it out for 2 cameras, an extra microphone for future expansion, if that's something that you guys are interested in.
He would come in and train the employee who's going to run this equipment?
Absolutely, yeah. Training's included on my quote there. You can see that on the Georgia Custom Computers portion of that quote.
And think about this, most churches have volunteers that control this stuff. So it's got to be, he doesn't have to be a professional to operate it, but he's also a phone call away too.
Absolutely, I'm 5 minutes down the road, so I'm right here by the ball field at Piedmont. So,
and what I envision is a camera. We did 2, but right now I just asked for the 1 camera. We usually have 1 in the back, and there would be some microphones that if folks wanted to speak in the back of the room, it would pick them up, and the cameras would stream everything on. Correct me, Zoom. All the different, the 3 at one time.
So you can do some. There are some cases where you can stream to multiple platforms. In a lot of cases, you'll be going through Zoom, and then through Zoom you can stream to Facebook, YouTube, several other streaming platforms. But with the computer that I'm providing, you'll be able to stream to as many platforms as you need to.
And so that there could be a camera in the back that can catch council's face. Then there's a camera behind council on the sides that's catching the audience's face. So everybody can see who's talking and understand what's being said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's going to be audience engagement. So there's actually an ambient microphone that sits in the middle of the room, and it can pick up anybody within a 30-foot radius of that.
I know it's a lot of money, but it's one thing if we want to showcase our meetings, showcase the things we're doing, it's something that can be done. Right?
It's multi-use for the purpose of, in the future, should we want to utilize that building for other meetings, or otherwise.
We would use your exact microphones at this point in time. Everything that we have here, it would be pre-wired if we were to go to laptops. So that technology is all in there, ready to go. We can quit killing all these trees. And talk about the speakers.
Yeah, so the speakers we're installing, I believe CCS quoted 15 speakers, but those have equal crowd coverage across the entire room. So there's not going to be any audio issues. That room is poured concrete. So the one thing that we're banking on is kind of the carpet is going to be, we're hoping we get the thicker carpet in there because the echo in that room is pretty severe. So we'll be rehanging all of the foam boards that were in that room. We're banking on the carpet because there's no drop ceiling. I don't believe there's any drop ceiling installed in there. Okay. Yeah, but if we get the thicker carpet, we're banking that it'll be decent. So, absolutely.
Thomas, we're a little over on our meeting time. Can we continue with this, or do we need to go ahead and go to the regular session?
It's in the same place. You can finish up this.
Okay, very good. Is that okay with everyone if we finish up with this? Is there any other further discussions or questions y'all have?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask them. I'm happy to help anytime, so.
Jared,
Ma'am?
may I interrupt you a second?
Yes, ma'am.
We have not gotten to public comment yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a young lady that needs to leave.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
She is here to make a special public comment. Could we at some point get to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay. I'll tell you what, if you just wanna go ahead and make that,
go
we
ahead.
understand.
Okay.
You don't have to stand up.
I just wanted to know, I live up on Thursby, and I wanted to know the status of the Loki property. It's a disgrace to the town and to the neighborhood, and of course, we're worried about snakes and rats and everything. And I just wondered why, for a while, it was kept up every day, regularly. And it has got, well, it's almost waist high.
It's up to here only right now.
And I'm real concerned about it. And that's why I made this effort tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we appreciate you making that effort to come out tonight. And I know it's something that we're gonna talk about. Mark, you have some thoughts on that?
I do.
And it's something that our code enforcement guy has been after them about. So we're gonna come up with a solution.
Because there's a lot of traffic goes up and down, walking people. And you have to watch for snakes to come out. And of course, when I go out my door, you have to watch because you never know.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would appreciate it if something could be done.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Good to see y'all again.
Come on, this way.
I'll say, when you come back, get
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
it ready, Mike.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Been doing it for years.
Just say.
Should be running. Sorry.
Sometimes my training course.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to lighting.
All right, there's two sections of this. There's lighting. We have 15 lights in the auditorium now. And the quote from City Plumbing on those lights is $1,330 to replace those 15 with 10 LED type lights that are going to throw more light than we get from those 15 now, because they just shine straight down and they throw a shadow. It worked for the church, but it doesn't work to light up the room that we need.
Who would do the
Rick, Barry. Okay,
It's on the front page.
yep, on the front page here. So we have the auditorium light, which is the second one down. I'm asking for the second proposal, which is the way he would install the lights. His most expensive charge on just his labor is $6,100. The second proposal is $4,100. And it's the way that they're going to hang these lights from the ceiling. And
So is that one's longer or?
it was a way that he could make these be cheaper than the other cost. So that's the difference in there, because he wants them to hang down further in their design. So the proposal, the third proposal down there is after he gets the lights up. Donnie, look at E. Yeah. On the third proposal down there is he's waiting to see if we need additional lighting over mayor and council chambers to see if there's additional lighting there. I didn't want y'all to think we didn't plan for that and saying, oh, we gotta add lights for y'all section there. But it's after we do the install at city. So basically the lights are $1,300 and it's $4,100 for the labor to hang these lights. Go back up to the City Hall lighting project. The 40 existing 2x4 fluorescent bulbs, light fixtures, to replace those to the LED, and he says it's gonna cut your power bill from that section 75% with these new lights. Yeah, and those lights are the next pricing of city plumbing, and that's $1931. So the labor for those lights to be replaced in all of the city hall, our location, is $4,000 plus $1931 for the material.
You said would reduce
75% of our existing power of all those lights off, getting off those fluorescent bulbs. So from that instance, I thought it was a good time to do it and look at it. So there's two quotes. Auditorium is $4,100 with $1,300 for the material. The city hall is $4,000 for its labor and $1931 for the material.
Added together, all of that is $11,361.
Yes.
$11,361.
The 40 lights in City Hall, there's 32 in City Hall. There's some security lights down the hallway and the lights in the bathroom. That's what the 40 include.
it's not just.
So it's not just City Hall itself, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
if I take what I'm presenting to y'all as what I would like to see happen for everything from inside, auditorium, city hall, and outside. Hold tight now. That total is $107,521.
What?
107, 521.
That replaces all that?
That's all.
It's
The entire
Oh, that's all, that's it?
That's everything from inside the auditorium, the lighting in city hall,
Carpet.
and what's outside,
Let storm drains,
storm drains.
basketball goal
Yeah.
prayer.
What's that again, Mark? I'm sorry.
107, 521.
And we have 192 remaining.
$191,500.
Does that include the carpet?
Yes, sir. That's the 15,775.
The gig card.
Yes.
So that's both 9 and 10, what I'm reading is 9 and 10 right here, put together is 107,520.
Yes. And I haven't done the HVAC yet, just because I want to get this clear so y'all see how much money we're talking. So it's 107, 521 with my math, Jerry. Sorry. So that leaves $83,000 on our line of credit. And
Where were you at, Mark?
107, 521. Where are you?
107, 519.
I use round numbers.
I'll give you the $2.
$2 in the car. Yeah. Sorry.
Let's move on to HVAC.
All right.
All be in there somewhere.
That's in the supplemental back.
Yes. We'll start with mountain air. It looks like this. Bid proposal 205-308. And I know this can be confusing here because there's some if, ands, and buts. So if you just read this, you probably didn't have anything but buts going on and figuring this out. But we got 3 proposals. I've met with them, all 3 of them. Jerry knows them all. And Mountain Air, the first bid number 205-38. If you walk down that hallway right now, it's getting hot in the school building.
So my concern, as we start to talk about this, yes, it's getting hot. But I'm worried it's gonna get humid and moldy.
It is sticky already.
And that's one of my biggest concerns, and Mark and I have had that conversations numerous times as I walked in and as mentioned this, is, you know, we're in Georgia. I'm worried about what's gonna happen.
So I've actually opened, it doesn't look very nice to have all those doors open in the hallway to let some air circulate, but I can in the history room and in the 2 storage rooms. I can't do those. And so you can feel the heat coming, where before you could feel the coldness. Wasn't bad for me, but for the ladies, it was
cold.
bad. Because again, those bathrooms were down those hallways too. So Mountain Air's first bid is to put a traditional unit inside and outside in every classroom. And so you would have an outdoor unit sitting outside, and you would have a normal vented ductwork spread across the room, because if you put in a office space in there, you framed it up like we did our office, you doesn't have ductwork and you just have a separate system, it's just gonna blow across the room. So keep that in mind. Now that price is $139,000 to have 15 of these units. So,
Question? Mark,
yes,
is this these new smaller units?
not yet. That one's coming. So his second bid is for the split system that Jim was talking about, where there would be 15 of these put on the wall with an outside, like a Mitsubishi unit sitting outside about yay tall. Now again, that's with or without ductwork, because again, if we build up, you would have to ductwork across the drop ceilings to have some air to get to each of those locations. That bid is $79,000, and it doesn't include any electrical work. It's him setting it up, and all these bids are subject to us having an electrician to hook each unit up. Okay? The next bid is from Chattahoochee Comfort. On this page here is 3 options. Everybody has this one? Okay.
Well, let's go back down and leave it there real quick.
All right.
So this one, 15 units, how many rooms are there?
15.
So this does not include bathrooms, hallways.
What we would do on those, we may have to adjust 3, well, not hallways, but the 2 restrooms and that front office right there, is we would still air another ductwork over on those locations. But we would have to do something else, which could be a higher price. I wasn't even considering the hallway until you just brought that up.
Well, I guess opening and closing the doors,
Right.
wouldn't be as much of a problem, but those other offices are. Okay, sorry, continue.
If it's over 100,000, do you have to have the RFP?
And that's fair, absolutely. But the 2 biggest bids were to have separate units. And it just depends, if y'all wanted that, we would have to table it to do that. But if you went with these split systems, they're roughly all about the same price, which is under that 100,000. All right, on Chattahoochee Comfort, this first one is $21,600. This unit, these 3 units are 2 tons, and that's where he would be stealing the air ductwork for additional air going into those 3 places we just talked about. Because if you go down to his bottom price, those are only a 1.5 ton. The second one right there is 1.5 tons. So he's adding, Jerry, half a ton to steal the air for the 2 restrooms in that front office. And so the price for those 3 is $21,600. Now, the second price of $77,000, that's for the 11 units. He's counting 14, where the other one was 15. For $77,000, that would put you multiple ductwork in every classroom. Now, if you don't,
I'm losing it. I'm sorry. So I'm staring at the Chattahoochee Comfort bill here. Is there multiple options on here?
Yes.
Or is this one?
No.
Okay. Help me break out
All right,
the
no.
options.
All right, first option is number 1 at $21,600.
What does that cover?
That's covering 3 units of 2 tons.
That's for bathroom and hall.
That's for a classroom and a bathroom, another classroom and a bathroom, another classroom in that front office.
Okay, so $21,000 covers
3 2-ton units.
but 3 offices, 2 bathrooms.
Yes,
Okay.
in that front office. Option 2, because everything is going to be plus 21,600. Okay?
Okay.
Option 2, along with the 21,000, is 1.5 tons, and that would be with ductwork, where you have the split system on the wall, and then he has run ductwork all across the room.
To distribute the air.
Distribute the air in case you had framed up walls in there. Just like we did in City Hall, because we stopped about that far from the ceiling in City Hall,
Yeah.
and it has multiple duct ducts up there that we didn't have to adjust that come to blow down in Megan's office and on where the ladies are on the other side there.
Okay, okay.
So it's the 21.6 plus the 77, which is, then the third option of 36,000 is with the same 11 units and 1.5 ton, but zero duct work. It's just gonna go on the wall and blow straight across wherever it goes.
So if we went with the 21,000 and the lower one, the 36,300, even if he had to do 1 or 2 with duct work. That puts it at $57,900 for that quote to put air conditioning everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, so this one I'm staring at has a quote for $57,900, air conditioning everywhere. All right, next question.
And no duct work,
Okay, no doubt.
other than the 3 that would go to those other 3 places.
Yeah,
All right.
that will back up. So this one on this one, it says does not include electrical wiring and circuits needed.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that the wind units that are in there now do have the power to support.
And when I want to tear in the MDE1, verify what's there, because it's still, I believe they still work in case we need to turn them on.
Yeah, well, we ran a couple last year after we bought the building, and I remember like checking the power bill, and it was crazy how expensive they were. So that's why they all got shut off.
Yeah.
They are 30 years old.
Yes. And on 1 or 2 of the bids, they've got people who want those. And like no charge to come take them down. And another bid is $1,600. See, people, there's other schools around here that still use that Sunny one that could be used for parts and they could be scrapped for metal.
And what's the last?
The third bill, I mean, the third one is Peach, the Peach of Georgia. And he has 3 in here. And basically, the middle one of 252,000, I already scratched that one out. But Jerry, do my 4,600 per unit times the 15. Please, sir.
69,000.
All right. He's talking about in his bids, putting them on the roof, the outside unit, you know, but that's all adding into all our roof. We don't want to touch anything on our roof. So I'm a little apprehensive with this one here. And, because the other one is down at, 1.5 tons, and he's at 6,500 for that one, and that puts him at 97. So I really more leaning toward one of the others than this one, just because of some of the things he threw out.
If you do this, we like to engage with them.
Absolutely, and we don't want to do that.
So apples to apples, we're looking at, when we're talking about mini splits and mountain smaller units, we're looking at is 1 being 57,900.
Yep.
2 being $166,000, and then 3 being 139,000.
Or your 79,000 on mountain.
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So it's 57,000 is really your 2 options, because, you know, we've been talking with a potential tenant for 4 spaces there. And we haven't gone through their architect or any revisions, we're just talking big picture here. And I don't know what they would be in their specs for 4 units.
So if we looked at all of this and utilizing what's left in our loan balance
Of 83,000.
that needs to be spent. Okay, so if we look at the 107 that you just gave us for all of the items that you want, which includes AV, floor, swings, everything. Plus the $57,900. That put it at $165,419.86. $165,419.86.
And subtract 191,500 from that number, please.
191,500 is what's on the loan balance that we
Yeah,
borrowed.
just a round number.
That leaves us with $26,080.14 out of that low interest loan balance.
And that would be, part of that would be what could go toward paying the electrician and whatever we have to do to hook these up.
Well, not only that, we're gonna have to put a window back in every one of those holes.
Yep.
So when we're talking about going through there, that means that we're gonna have to order a window and put in every one of those holes, and, that probably cost $8,000. So we're eating up that remaining balance. So when we purchased this building, we went in there knowing that we had a certain amount of money to go in and start renovations. Did we think we were gonna paint the building, put in our insurance, start these other things, but some of the things that we're staring at here in front of us may be a little bit more necessary.
And you have about a $40,000 change order from the roof.
Yeah.
So from the original bid, it was roughly 135, and we finished up 175, 183, somewhere in there.
Well, Mark, this is real complicated and complex. I appreciate you putting all this together.
I try to do it as simple as I can, but there's no simple way to put each line item
So let's
together.
Let's talk about it. We got it here in front of us. Mark, when this thing closes, this loan closes on July 1st, what happens to that remaining balance?
I have asked Mike and I discussed this for him to verify with the closing, legal counsel.
Okay.
That can they go ahead and draw this money off, we put it in a separate account, we still draw it as we do now, we send over a request from the bank, then they put it into this, bank account, that maybe goes from there. That's what I've asked him to do.
Okay.
And he said he's waiting to hear back from Trev and some of those guys. And, so that's what I would recommend. And I'm gonna be following up with Mike tomorrow on some other things and see how he finalizes that. So he understands that the majority of the money could be approved tonight, and things will be allocated, but they won't be spent by the time July 1st comes.
Okay. Council, where are y'all at? Where's your thoughts? This was budgeted as far as what we moved forward with for our next year with that full payment. So we're aware what that full payment looks like. This is things that we talked about, borrowed money on, to spend on this. Where y'all wanna be? What's your thoughts?
I mean, are we looking at apples to apples on Mountain Air Heating and Chattahoochee Comfort? On these two bids, the 57,900 and the 79,260.
In talking with the two guys, I don't know, I didn't know any of these guys till I started the process, I feel like we are.
Okay.
Because the difference
All,
is,
all three of these guys are local,
Right.
yes,
reputable companies that do some black commercial stuff.
and they all came within 24 hours of meeting. So they were all done on the spot. And the biggest issue is, since we don't know if you're gonna be building out of offices, and always come back and add it up. Because it may not be needed. Somebody just may have a couple desks in there and the air flows by. I think if you don't do the ductwork at this point, other than those three that we talked about, I think you would be just fine getting that air moving in there and saving the cost of electricity compared to those monsters that are in there now. And it is heat and air.
Yeah.
And if we go out there, I need to explain each one as we go through on a simpler note. Here's the one I recommend. We can do that so y'all can see that. Because I know this is, there's no easy way to do this today.
Council, what's your thoughts?
We gotta have heat and air. I mean, that's our best.
Out of all these things on here, I think the heating and air is the most important. Do I think that we can give the money back to the bank and say, no, we'll pay for all that stuff later and push that one down the road? Yeah, we can do that. We can get that credit back on our loan. But are we gonna be able to borrow money? What did we borrow money for? Y'all remember what that percentage was? Yeah.
We'll say 4% with tax free.
I think we borrowed that.
I'll verify it more.
Okay. But even if 4%, we're not gonna be able to get that money for a while.
No, because you'd probably be sitting 7, 8, 9%. Other than the balances that we do have at United Community, there could be some lending of those rates or tradition, but this was strictly a tax-free rate at that time.
That's right. I mean, could we in a few years,
Refi.
ask for some SPOS or something like that? Yeah, we can do that. There's a lot of options, but it's gonna be pushing the ball for the council, for the public to get in that building for a number of years.
So think about what we've got. We got a brand new roof, we got a brand new city hall, water department, and everything that we're able to do there. We'll have an auditorium where that is our municipal building, courts there. This frees up this building for police and fire. We've got the gym in total open use. We've got the ball field, the outdoor, a whole second park for the city to say. I think we've gotten a lot out of that. Unfortunately, the roof was
And you know, I'll say again that this just pushes us one step closer to our end goals of making that the city center and moving that up.
I mean, those are good scenarios,
Yeah.
anyway.
And as we say,
I mean,
everything
somebody's
goes up
got
in
to
price.
it's either gonna be this council or the council that comes next.
Mhm.
I mean, because we bought that building for these purposes, and it has to be done and done well. Because we want a building that's gonna last.
Correct.
Well, you look at sitting in this room and just go sit down like I have many times in the auditorium to visualize that little room
Yeah.
and nobody having to film around the post in there and be able to see both sides in there. I know it's expensive, guys. I just think we get one shot and we will have something that multi-use in a facility. You know, these different EDC meetings and stuff, different things we can host right there and have all the technology that we need, whether it's at North Georgia Tech. You know, I just think it just gives you so many options, because again, you can rent the facility out. There's additional revenue sources from the public.
And we have the space.
If
We
we
bought
have
the
the space.
building for the reason. I don't know why we would not air conditioning.
The cafeteria,
How much?
4.037.
4.037.
Okay. The cafeteria has a mini split.
That's a whole, that's,
Have we even touched this?
no, because the auditorium and these were kind of what I took from all as being the priority.
But there's a mini
The
split
cafeteria
already in there.
has something on the wall, mounted on the wall.
Yeah,
That's it.
And
That's
then
the
they,
same.
in the corner, it has a gas heater that,
Yes.
I mean, it really heats the place.
So whatever y'all tell me is the next way is next, but completing this, I think is the cherry on top to get out of this and to put y'all down there and the citizens down there. I just think it just, I'm honest, think about it. Sitting down there right now, executive session, my thought is we could go into the cafeteria, have executive session right out of that side door, right there, and it will be an issue to have executive session there. You got the restrooms on both sides, folks could come in, they can mingle in that area in the front, right there. So I'm happy to do whatever y'all want to do.
Any other further discussion on that? I want to talk about each option.
What I can do, going off of that, so is I'll talk about, my recommendation is this. You know, that's the only way I can, in my own mind, try to visualize how this can work.
Okay, very good. We have two more items, account signer and the DDA resignation. We're gonna talk about that.
I think I'm more out after this.
I have one thing to add. I talked to Brian, and he said that Precision had paved Georgia Street, that Higgins subcontracted them, so that they actually paved Georgia Street.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah, that's